Welcome, everybody, to another episode of Superheroes, Movies, and Superhero Movies. I'm Justin Speck.
I'm John Pelzel.
And today we're talking about Wonder Woman. Released in 2017, directed by Patty Jenkins, written by Alan Heinberg, with a story by Zack Snyder, Alan Heinberg, and Jason Fuchs. Starring Gal Gadot, Chris Pine, Robin Wright, Connie Nielsen, Danny Houston, David Thewlis, and a couple of other people. This movie is a part of the DCEU, I guess you could call it. Although I don't know, I've heard that DC Extended Universe was not really ever the official name for it. Like Warner Brothers never came out and said this is the DC Extended Universe. That's what some fans started calling it.
Interesting.
Yeah, and so that's just kind of what everybody calls it.
Why extended?
I don't know. That's what I don't understand. Why not DCCU, the DC Cinematic Universe,
right,
like the MCU? I don't know. I don't know why it's called the DCEU.
Huh.
And I don't know why, Warner Brothers or DC never came out and said, that's not what it's called.
Right.
They
right.
just let people call it that. So anyway, this came out a year after Batman v Superman, Dawn of Justice, where she was introduced, but before Justice League,
right,
which came out the same year, I think, right? 2017.
Was it
November of 2017? I think it was.
Time's flying for me, man.
I know. 2017. So Wonder Woman and Justice League came out in the same year. So this was her backstory, basically, her origin story, if you will. Which was, and it was the first, I believe, the first critical success of the DC Cinematic Universe. It was the first movie that critics actually liked.
I think you'd say, yeah, kind of almost the only.
Pretty much. I mean, yeah.
Like critically
out of the DC,
acclaimed.
Yeah, because even we had this conversation before we started recording. Aquaman had favorable reviews,
right?
But it was in the 60s percentage
right.
on Rotten Tomatoes, 65%, I think, whereas this one's a 93%. So pretty much all of critics like this movie. All of critics pretty much hated Batman v Superman. I think Justice League has like a 40%, Man of Steel has a 50-something, and Suicide Squad, I think, is in the 20s as well. So yeah, pretty much the only DC movie to be universally liked by critics. And not universally, 93% of critics liked it. But
right.
So I went and saw this movie in the theater, probably opening day, if not opening day, opening weekend. I don't recall exactly when I saw it, but it was before I left California.
Were you excited for it?
I was excited for it. I liked Wonder Woman and Batman v Superman. I thought she was one of the strong... I loved Batman v Superman. Remember our conversation on that movie? I'm one of the few. I'm one of the 27%, I guess, even though I'm not a critic. But I really liked Batman v Superman a lot, actually. I think it's a misunderstood film, I guess. So anyway, I really liked her in that, and so I was looking forward to this movie a lot. And I thought the previews looked really good. The first time I got to go to Comic-Con, they showed a brief, it wasn't really a trailer. It was more just kind of a little highlight reel, and it looked cool. It wasn't much. It was just like an act, a little bit of a fighting scene and her riding a horse or something, and that was, it wasn't much because it was still a year away, I think.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I saw it in the theater and I was really tired, and so I had a hard time staying awake actually. But I remember liking it. I don't remember being super wowed by it, but I remember liking it.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember thinking I need to see it again because I was just so tired.
Right.
And I did, when I was working at Deluxe, we got the movie in. It was like a file that needed to be QC'd. So I didn't rewatch the entire thing, but I rewatched the end because that was the part I had the most difficult time staying awake for. Not because the movie was bad by any means. It was just we saw like a late showing and I just was tired.
So wait a minute. Your job at Deluxe, that was to watch...
Yeah, I was a QC technician, quality control technician.
Right.
And they, it was for the digital media department, I guess. And
right.
So, yeah, digital video files that we were delivering to clients. I had to check, and I didn't watch the whole thing for I did have to do full checks for certain things.
Oh, okay. I was gonna say. So what you're telling me is you just popped this in and like, I remember this part of the movie. I'm not gonna watch.
I'm not going to watch it. You're like, that's your job. No.
Okay.
I was typically doing spot checks for video files, so I would check the beginning of a file, the middle of a file, and the end of a file. And then I must have just had a little downtime, or I stayed late once my shift ended or something and just watched the end of Wonder Woman. But occasionally I would have to watch I'd have to do a full check, and so I'd have to sit there and really pay attention and watch the entire thing. But not often. I usually did spot checks of everything. And I QC'd the most random things. We're constantly watching TV, and Denise will be like, "Have you ever seen the show?" And I'm like, "No, but I've QC'd it."
Yeah, I mean, I remember when we did the It episode, like there was a show that was...
Yeah, what was that? That was what was that show called? It was it had a number in it. It was something.
Yeah,
it was an old like detective show from the 50s or something. And yeah, I used to have to QC episodes of that too. What was that called? It was 77 Sunset Strip or something like that.
I think that was it on the head. And like it happened to be the day that we were
recording the episode. Yeah.
Either the day we were recording or the day that... It's probably the day that you watched the movie.
It probably was,
because then when you went and watched the movie, you
like,
saw...
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, I forgot all about that. But yeah, I used to QC episodes of that, and I QC'd episodes of random stuff like Hell's Kitchen and then Dawson's Creek. Hulu was one of our clients, I guess.
Creek.
And so I remember QCing episodes of Smallville because Smallville was about to be put on Hulu, and so we had to check those. And then random movies too and stuff. I checked Rogue One time, which that was kind of cool. It was for the International Space Station. I had to do a full check of Rogue One, so I had to watch the entire movie. Woe is me, because I had to make sure that file was okay because they were going to send it up to space so the astronauts could watch it.
That's crazy.
Yeah,
that's really cool.
Yeah, that was probably. I mean, I'd seen Rogue One before, and I didn't mind watching it again, but that was one of the coolest things I did, just knowing that it was going up to the International Space Station. So yeah, if I hadn't moved back to Georgia, that's probably where I would still be. QCing video files. Because why not? Pretty decent job.
Yeah. Yeah, I'd do it.
So anyway, Wonder Woman. This was your first time seeing the movie, right?
Yes.
We watched this film today, just right before we decided to record. And interestingly enough, today is June 5th. This episode's not going to go up for a little bit, but today's June 5th, 2019. And I found out today that Wonder Woman 1984, the next Wonder Woman, is going to come out June 5th, 2020. So
1 year out.
1 year from today. So I thought that was kind of interesting that we had decided to watch Wonder Woman today, and then, although maybe that date had already been announced and I just missed it, but I saw that today, and they posted a new kind of teaser poster for it. The director, Patty Jenkins, is the same director for the second one, and she said in her tweet when she posted that poster that they're not going to start their full kind of campaign for the movie until December. So I don't know if we'll see a teaser trailer before then or not. That movie was supposed to come out this year, and they pushed it back to 2020, which is not always a good sign. But I can't remember the reasoning for it. It didn't seem like it was actually a bad reason. I think it was, they just wanted to take more time with it and make sure everything was good. But I don't know.
I mean, that doesn't sound like a good thing anyway.
I don't remember what the official reason was, but I don't know. Of course, the studio's not going to go, yeah, we're pushing this movie back because it sucks.
Right.
So it needs some work.
Right. Yeah. Typically, the way they word that when they're trying to cover their tracks is, we want to take our time.
Yeah, we want to put out a quality product.
Right.
So, since this was your first time seeing it, what'd you think?
What did I think?
What was your first impression?
Well, I started the movie really thinking it was, doing a pretty good job. Mm-hmm. It seemed to me as the movie went on, it started dying down for me. And by the end of it, I honestly kind of had a bad taste in my mouth.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow. So you're part of the 7% of critics that didn't care for it.
That's right.
Well, that's
I wouldn't say I didn't care for it.
Just didn't like it quite as much as you thought you were going to.
Yeah. Well, like I had suspicions anyway about how I was going to feel about it because this movie, like you said, 93% on Rotten Tomatoes. I had already known that it was critically acclaimed and kind of bumped up my expectations. And a lot of times when that happens, that can kind of take down my enjoyment for a movie,
Right.
and vice versa. But yeah, this, like I said at the beginning, I saw the quality, but then it just kind of seemed to damper off a little bit.
What was the turning point for you? What scene was it that you were like, all right, this movie's kind of lost me?
Probably when they were at, like, I guess going at the, I guess it was a castle, like where the party was.
Yeah, the gala, where the gala
Yeah.
is. Yeah.
I think at that point I was kind of like, this is starting to.
Was there a specific moment at the, during the gala scene that made you feel that way, or
not
just
that I can think of? I just know that that's kind of where I
started to check?
yeah,
out a
where I
little bit?
noticed that I was losing some of my enjoyment.
Interesting. I could understand, because I assumed you were going to say it was the last, I guess the last act of the film where she's battling air. By the way, if you haven't seen Wonder Woman, we're going to talk about the whole movie, so make sure you watch Wonder Woman before you listen to this. But I assumed you were talking about the scene at the end where she's battling Ares, and because it's very
That's what kind of
CG kind of heavy there.
right. I actually liked a lot of the CG fighting.
Yeah.
Honestly, like I was
Kind of the slow motion.
I kind of noticed that, and I was like, it just felt superhero-ish. Like you had those unnatural movements,
Right.
but it felt, especially with someone like Wonder Woman. And I'm wondering, thinking about it now, if we need to go back and rewatch it. But I'm assuming Man of Steel kind of had that same feel,
Yeah.
of just the super quick movements, like the just the unnaturalness of it,
Yeah.
that made it feel kind of cool to me,
Yeah.
which I typically would not expect that.
Right.
Typically, I don't like that.
Yeah.
But for Wonder Woman and Ares fighting, it seemed to fit.
Mm-hmm.
But it was only at the beginning. And then as the fight progressed, I kind of started feeling less, of enjoyment for it.
Gotcha. Yeah, I was wondering how you felt about that scene, because to me, it's probably a little unfair for me to say this because it's a Patty Jenkins movie, but there are some moments in this movie that feel very Snyderish, Zack Snyderish.
Yeah.
And that last fight scene especially, I think, feels very kind of Zack Snyderish. And I was wondering, I'm curious, not just with you, but other people, like if they kind of check out during that, because I like Zack Snyder. There's there's maybe one or two movies of his that I maybe don't care for that much. Not that I've seen all of his movies. I've never seen that animated one, the owl movie.
Oh, right.
Legends of the Guardians or something like that. Or no, maybe it's Guardians. I don't remember what it's called. Anyway,
It's not Legend of the Guardians, because I think that's the
animated movie.
animated movie. Yeah. But
Well, I mean,
like
this is an animated movie.
right, but like the
Santa
Santa
and
Claus.
whatnot.
Yeah. It's like Ghoul.
It's Legends of the Guardians, the Owls of Ga'Hoole.
That's it.
Yeah, I
Okay.
think Rise of the Guardians is the one.
Yeah, you're right.
With Santa.
You're right.
Which I saw that, but Chris Pine is in that one as well. I think Chris Pine plays Jack Frost or something. Anyway, I've never seen Legends of the Guardians Al Ghul, although I will say I remember seeing the trailer for it and thinking that it looked like one of the most beautiful animated movies that I'd ever
Yeah,
seen
at the
a preview
time.
for. Yeah,
Absolutely.
so there's a part of me that wouldn't mind seeing it, and I'm sure it's really good. But
If I'm not mistaken, it's a comic book, right?
I don't know actually.
I think it is.
If it is, I've never heard of it. So anyway, I would consider myself a Zack Snyder fan. I know a lot of people think Zack Snyder is more substance and not a lot of, more style over substance. And that may be true, but I like his style. So I consider myself a fan of his. But anyway, so the final act of the movie I actually really like. I think it's really well done and looks really good and everything. There's a couple of shots, perhaps, that I think maybe go a little overboard on the style, perhaps, maybe. There's one shot in particular. It's after,
But don't forget, this isn't Zack Snyder.
I know it's not. It's Patty Jenkins, right?
Yeah.
And so I don't, it's her vision, and I think 99% of the movie to me is really good. There's just a couple of shots that are just that slow motion. There's one shot in particular that I'm thinking, I can't tell if I really like it or if I really dislike it. And it's after Steve Trevor's plane blows up, and she kind of is going on like a rage rampage.
Oh yeah.
And she ends by like extending her arms, and you see her screaming, and it's slow motion, and all the guys in the background, she's like somehow hit them by screaming at them, I guess. And they're all like flying backwards, and she's like, ah. Right. I don't know. There's something about that shot where I'm like, that's cool, but I feel like it's also not cool. I don't know. I can't quite put my finger on it.
Right.
But overall, I really like the style of the movie, and I think a lot of those slow motion shots, which, it's unfair to say like that's Snyder-ish because people were doing slow motion stuff before Zack Snyder, but
yeah, but you can take a style to that slow motion.
Yeah. And this kind of has that a little bit, mm-hmm. But I also think it's really good. And this movie, for the most part, I really like this movie a lot. There's a couple of CG moments that I feel like don't quite work as well. There's one in particular in the very beginning, and I think the very first time I saw this movie, I was a little nervous about it. It's when Diane is a little kid, and she's like running away from her tutor, and she like jumps off of a cliff or something.
Oh, right.
And you can just really tell it's green screen. I mean, obviously it's green screen. They're not going to have a kid jump off a cliff.
Yeah, it depends.
It depends on the kid and how annoying that kid is. No, so you can really tell it's green screen. And I remember thinking in the theater, I'm like, ooh, this is how this movie's going to go. Or like every green screen shot.
Yeah, I mean, that's very early on in the movie.
Yeah, it is, yeah.
So
I was a little nervous, I think, the first time I saw it. But then the rest of the movie, is not. That was probably the worst green screen shot in the whole movie,
I liked the beginning of the movie, the origin of Diana, and I liked that they kept it where she was molded from clay.
Right.
I heard that, there was talk about that and them changing that up because it was just maybe too hokey.
Oh, interesting.
But no, I'm glad they kept that and stayed with. One thing I really think they missed a great opportunity to do, and unfortunately a lot of people probably wouldn't have been able to. I mean, it could have been explained in the movie, but if you remember Man of Steel.
Mm-hmm. No, what is that?
It's a superhero.
Right,
it's a nickname that they use for Superman.
Who's that?
Okay,
got it. Superman.
The movie, Man of Steel.
Yes, Man of Steel.
There was a comic, like a miniature comic that came out, if you remember that.
Like a prequel.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it dealt with, I think we talked about this.
Dealt with Supergirl, right?
Yeah.
Did it? Yeah.
Well, sort of. Like, originally Supergirl is Kal-El's
cousin,
right? Yeah. In this comic, she crash lands. The ship in Man of Steel that's been frozen there for like 10,000 years.
Right.
That's her ship.
Yeah.
And that's why the outfit's in there.
Right. We had that conversation because really Superman is wearing Supergirl's outfit.
Right. All right. And you have to just say that it grows and shrinks.
Right. Yeah.
Because of technology.
Yeah, exactly. Krypton technology.
Right. Anyway, at the end of that comic, she crashes. There's another guy in there, and he's a bad guy that they're all in cryo sleep on the way to the planet, and they're going to Earth to what were they doing in Man of Steel? Like when they were
terraforming.
So they were going to Earth to, like, I guess, explore
and see if it was a viable option type thing. Yeah.
So while they're there, the guy, one of the guys that's in sleep, I don't remember how, but he wakes up and kills everyone except for her.
Okay.
And they fight because she's like, "Why did you kill my friends?"
Right. As you would.
Right. I think he wanted to just end the mission there and, like, basically mate with her and start over like Adam and Eve.
Yeah.
On Earth. So at the end of the comic, though, it shows one like shadowy figure leaving the ship. It doesn't show who it is.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. Obviously, we're assuming it's...
So you don't see the end of the fight in the comic?
Yeah.
And so you don't know,
who wins.
You don't. I gotcha. So you don't know if it's Supergirl or if it's the bad guy.
Right.
Gotcha.
But what I was really thinking they were going to do with this, because I asked you during this movie, can Wonder Woman fly?
Yeah.
I was under the impression that she can.
Right. And I did a little research while we were watching the movie, and in the television shows, and this is the first movie, I guess, that Wonder Woman, I mean, aside from Batman v Superman, it's the first movie that she's been in. So just basically going off of like television shows. In the live action Linda Carter TV show, she could not fly. She had her invisible jet. And then on Super Friends, it was the same thing. She had her invisible jet. But then on the Justice League cartoon show, if you call that, after like Batman and Superman, the animated series, she could fly. Mm-hmm. And according to the article I was reading, it seemed to be whatever was going on kind of in the comics at the time was what the TV shows did. And so in the 70s, I think she was flying her invisible jet, but then in the early 2000s, she was flying in the comics. And so she's apparently kind of gone back and forth. Sometimes she just leaps. Mm-hmm. You know, she's kind of like the Hulk, I guess, where she just can leap very far. Or Superman's origin, before he became a flying character, he would just leap tall buildings in a single bound. But then in other iterations of the comics, she does fly. When the movie ended, you were like, oh, there she is flying. And I was like, is she flying? Or is she leaping?
Right.
And the only reason why, because I do think it does kind of hint at the fact she's flying. And like you said, during the fight scene with Ares, he's flying.
Right.
You know, he's levitating.
And it's right after he says, I'm a god, you're a god.
Right.
And he does that. And I thought maybe I saw it wrong, but I thought after he goes up and kind of hovers there, she kind of does the same thing.
I don't think she hovers, though. I think she leaps up.
Could be wrong.
And then I think she comes back down, and it's just in slow motion or something. But the only reason why I don't think she's flying at the end of the movie is because Justice League has come out and she doesn't fly in Justice League.
Okay.
I think she just leaps in Justice League. But I almost kind of wish they would give her flight. I
think flight is a really cool power for her.
And if Ares can do it, I don't see why she couldn't.
Right. She's a god.
Right. So I agree. I think I like to, if Justice League hadn't come out, I think I'd be on the same page with you and say, yeah, I think she's flying at the end of the movie. But I don't know if it's because they just were like, we just want Superman to fly.
Right.
Or what, but...
So I've always kind of also viewed Wonder Woman as a female Superman, but because like I said, I thought she could fly. I had that ingrained in my brain that she could fly. I thought she was impervious to bullets.
Yeah, and I'm a little. I mean, in the movies, she's stopping them with her bracelets and stuff, but I always kind of thought she was impervious to bullets too. But that's not how the movie portrays it. So I'm not sure about the comics. I will say that I've watched some of the Justice League cartoon and I've read Justice League comics, but I've never once read an issue of Wonder Woman. So
I haven't either.
I don't know. I've never gone back to read like old comics and see what her actual origin was and all that. So I don't know much about her. I know a couple of her villains, but that's because of Justice League and Super Friends. I knew of Ares and Cheetah. Those are like the only two Wonder Woman villains I really know of.
I knew Cheetah.
So, yeah, I don't know.
But
my knowledge of Wonder Woman isn't where it should be, is what I'm trying to say.
Right. Me neither. But from what I thought that I, could remember, that she, I thought she could fly, impervious to bullets, blah, blah, blah.
Superhuman strength.
Yeah. Basically.
Almost basically Superman.
Yes, exactly. And I really thought that with that comic that they released, that they were going to go into the fact, and I would have been totally for this and pushed for it if I had been in any part of the decision making, that Kara was the survivor of the fight, which you are pretty sure she was.
They're not going to kill off Supergirl in a prequel comic.
Right. And then goes on to find humans, mate with them, and then Kryptonian DNA is now on Earth, creating the gods, Zeus.
Oh, interesting.
And then Zeus goes on to have Ares, and that is actually what makes them be able to be gods. Also, you'd be able to have Superman's symbol recognizable to Wonder Woman.
Right.
And that could have been the thing that pulled her out into humanity, was when in Man of Steel, Superman is revealed.
Flying around, yeah.
Right, he's revealed to the world, and then you could have had Diana see the symbol and be like, "Ooh, I need to go talk to this guy."
Right, yeah.
Because he's not from here,
Yeah.
and we need to talk about, some stuff.
That would have been interesting. I wonder how that would have gone over with the comic fan base.
Right. It would have been, it's a good question, but it would have made Wonder Woman half Kryptonian.
Right. And then she'd be able to fly and all that stuff.
Right.
Yeah. That'd be interesting. That would have been interesting, I guess. Interesting take on it. As it is, it was just the actual origin, with Zeus being an actual god and
Right.
breathing life into the clay mold that was Wonder Woman. And now she is a god.
I mean,
guess.
unless that was the direction they were going and they just never got into it, because where did Zeus come from? They never go into that.
Well, I don't know. Maybe it was explained and I completely missed it, or maybe it's just something you're supposed to know if you're a Wonder Woman fan. But how do I assume? You asked me earlier, like, what is she immortal? Because she stays the same age from World War I to 2016.
And she makes that comment at the end of the movie where she's like, "This is my, I guess, mission forever."
Right. Yeah.
And that's where I was like, "Oh yeah, I guess she's a god. She's immortal." So.
But the Amazons aren't gods. But are they, do they age? Because I guess they don't age, because
they were created a long time ago.
Right. And there's no men on the island, so they're not procreating. So it's just them. And the Diana's mother, Hippolyta, is that how you say her name? I forget how you say her name. Anyway, Connie Nielsen's character, she looks the same in Wonder Woman, which takes place, when Wonder Woman is a child, it takes place before World War I. And then she looks the exact same in Justice League, which takes place in present day.
Right.
So I'm assuming they're all immortal too. They're just not gods, but they are immortal, or they just age very slowly.
Right.
But that was what I was going to say, was like, where did they all come from? But I guess the gods created the Amazons.
Right.
Okay, gotcha.
It was to help with the corruption of Ares. It was Zeus, if I'm not mistaken.
Oh, interesting.
Like he created the people, and then Ares corrupted their hearts, and then the Amazonians or is it Amazons?
I don't know. Go with whichever one you feel more comfortable with, I guess. I don't know.
Well, I've said them both, so I'm just going to continue. And
you've covered your bases.
They were created to help the corruption.
I gotcha. But then they secluded themselves off from the world?
Yes.
Because they were like, no can do.
Because was it Ares? Was Ares coming after them, or?
They do have a backstory of Ares and all that stuff in the beginning of the movie, and now I can't remember it. But
it's like, well, they defeated him because Wonder Woman's mom, say her name again?
I didn't even pronounce it right the first time.
She's like, Ares, he's not alive anymore.
Right, yeah, that's true. She was thinking...
Which I didn't like that, I'm like...
She was like, maybe he's dead. And I feel like all the rest of the Amazons/Amazonians were like, what?
Right. And even if that's the case, like, shouldn't you be taking precautions? And then it turns out that Wonder Woman is actually the God Killer.
Yeah.
Not the sword.
Right.
And I was like, why, if her mom knew that...
Why wouldn't you train her up?
Right.
Yeah, I don't know.
Like, you should have been training her from the beginning. So I felt like that was...
She was just, I guess she was just being a protective mother. She was...
That's true. I mean, she did make the comment, that she was the most precious thing to her
right.
on Earth.
Yeah.
But as the queen,
Gotta be wiser than that.
yeah. I mean, yeah, exactly.
I hear you.
She should have been training her and even not making comments like, I don't think Ares is alive. He's like she made some really stupid comment about like the wounds, like something about the wounds, maybe like.
Oh yeah,
maybe
wounds,
he's not
maybe
dead,
he died
but,
from his wounds or something like that. Yeah.
It was just, I'm like, you need to take precautions, ma'am.
Yeah. I don't want to tell you how to do your job, but you're doing it wrong. So I'm ashamed to admit this, but I do have an animated Wonder Woman movie that came out years and years ago. It was one of the first.
You're ashamed to admit that you have it?
No. I'm ashamed to admit that I have not seen it. Was what I was about to say. But it came out. It's one of the first DC animated movies that came out. There was Superman Doomsday, there was Batman Gotham Knights, and then I think it was Wonder Woman. It might not have been the third movie, but it was really early on. And I've owned it pretty much since it came out. Never watched it.
I can't remember if I've seen it or not. Because when the DC animated movies first started coming out, I remember like I was watching those. Like you had Green Lantern,
First Flight, yeah.
Yeah. And Doomsday, I saw that. And there was a Justice League one.
Yeah, there was Crisis on Two Earths, and then there was Justice League. Oh, no, The New Frontier was like the first one, I think.
I think that's the one, yeah.
And, so really, those... I have all of those DC animated movies, and they're mostly all really good. And I've always wanted to do episodes on them, but we just never did do them. If you want to hear us do an episode on an animated movie, let us know. Anyway, so I've never seen the Wonder Woman episode, the Wonder Woman movie, but I think it takes place in present day. So I think Steve Trevor in that is more of like a fighter pilot, like Hal Jordan. But I liked what they did in this movie. I liked that they set it during World War I. I don't know I don't remember when Wonder Woman was created, if it was around the World War I time, and maybe that's why they decided to set it in that time period, or what the reason for making this a period film was, but I liked that they did. I think it worked really well.
Yeah, I agree.
What'd you think about Chris Pine as Steve Trevor?
So, I have my own personal feelings about this. And it's because I wanted Chris Pine to be Hal Jordan so bad. And then I saw that they're making him a fighter pilot, but he's not Hal Jordan. Yeah. And part of me wanted them to just, once again, like I've already said, how I wanted them to take liberties to kind of change things around with Wonder Woman. I was like, let's make
Steve Trevor
go into the future. And then it turns out that he changes his name to Hal Jordan and he becomes Green Lantern.
Well, that'd be interesting if that actually happens, because he supposedly dies in this movie, but he is going to be in the sequel in 1984, and he looks the same. So maybe he did get transported into the future,
or it's like his
doppelganger
grandson.
Well, I don't think that's the case, but maybe it is. I mean, I'm pretty sure he's playing Steve Trevor again.
Okay.
There's been
that would be. I mean, it could be done, but it would be a little weird for him to play.
They did release a picture. Let's see if I can find it. They did release a picture of him on set. I was trying to see if it was on here. Yeah, here you go. And it almost. No, he's just wearing regular clothes. I was going to say, he almost looks like a fighter pilot, but not really. Does he look more like Hal Jordan there, though?
He's got sneakers on. It's hilarious.
So I'm very curious how they explain that, how he survived, number one, and how he got transported to the future, I guess, without aging. Unless they're pulling a Captain America.
What's her name in the background, too? Doesn't that look like the secretary?
It kind of does, yeah. I don't think it's supposed to be her, but it kind of does. That would be kind of hilarious, actually, if it was her. That's funny. So anyway, I don't know. I don't know what's going on with the sequel. Mm-hmm. I'm curious about it. Cheetah's going to be in it. Kristen Wiig is playing Cheetah. So I haven't seen any pictures of that or anything so far. There's been pictures of Kristen Wiig, but not as Cheetah.
Right.
Just as, I guess, whoever Cheetah is.
Well, there's been pictures of Kristen Wiig for many, many years.
Yes, that's right. On set of Wonder Woman. But yes, you're correct. No photos have been taken of Kristen Wiig prior to this movie. So, let's talk about a couple other characters, shall we?
Yeah. How about Professor... Excuse me. What's his name? Sir Patrick is what they call him.
Sir Patrick, yes.
I was thinking it was Professor because of Patrick. It had nothing to do with Professor Lupin.
Patrick. No, not Professor Lupin. But played by the same guy, David Thewlis. First time I ever saw David Thewlis was in the... I can't remember what year it came out. 90-something, 97.
You talking about Dragonheart?
Nope. Oh, I forgot he was in Dragonheart. No.
Yeah.
I guess I did see that one, but the first time I guess I took notice of David Thewlis was in the Marlon Brando, Val Kilmer, Island of Dr. Moreau.
Okay.
If you recall that. I believe he's the main character. He's the guy that goes to the island and discovers what's going on and all that stuff. I forget what his character's name is.
Is that a... what's his name? The guy that wrote 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea?
Jules Verne?
Yeah, is that a Jules Verne story?
Nope, it's an H.G. Wells story.
Okay, that's it.
And I have read that book, and I really like that book. But that movie was weird and did not do well.
Really?
Yeah, I think it was one of those movies where it had one director. That director kind of got fired. Then John Frankenheimer got hired, and he's a good director, but it was probably a mess that he couldn't really fix, and it bombed at the box office and all that. It was a weird movie. But anyway, David Thewlis was in it, and that was the first time I remember being like, this guy's a pretty good actor. Mm-hmm. And then I saw him in other things here and there, and have just I've always thought he was really good, actually.
Yeah.
And Prisoner of Azkaban was always my favorite, for a long time, was my favorite Harry Potter book. And when he got cast as Lupin, I was like, awesome.
Yeah. Like, I saw him in Prisoner of Azkaban and couldn't place where I knew him from, but I was like, I love this guy. And the way he played...
Lupin?
Well, we'll talk about that, Harry Potter.
Right, yeah, I guess we'll save that for another episode. But you had seen him from Dragonheart? Is that what you figured out?
Yeah.
I forgot he was in Dragonheart. I did. I need to watch that movie again. Does that movie hold up? Not so much? Should we do an episode on that one?
Hey, I mean, sure.
That'd be cool.
Yeah.
So back to Wonder Woman. So David Thewlis, does a great job, I think. I am a little curious as to why do you think he was pushing the treaty, the what are they calling it? The arm?
Oh, with Berlin?
Yeah. I forget what the word is that they were using, but he's pushing for peace really hard, but he's the god of war.
Maybe he knew that they would just mess it up
and it would go through.
Yeah.
So he was just he was being a spy, being on the
right, and
kind of doing the Steve Trevor thing, but
and was he being serious when he said, that like these people are bad, like I have nothing to do with this?
I don't know. Maybe. I don't know. I mean, I feel like Steve Trevor was kind of correct when she kills Ludendorff. Is that his name? General Ludendorff?
Yeah.
When she kills Ludendorff and she's like, nothing has stopped. He's like, maybe it's us. He's like, maybe we're not all good. Or, maybe some of us are just bad. I think that, that's probably accurate. Or, and maybe Ares has corrupted them, but I think that maybe is past the point of undoing or something, So,
right.
I don't know. But I still liked... What did you think of when he gets the armor on and becomes more of the traditional-looking Ares?
So I love the armor that they chose to use. But for me, David Thewlis was not really the right fit for that.
Right.
It just...
Would you have rather seen, like, David... Like, it looks like David Thewlis, but then once he puts the armor on, it's a different actor? Like,
yes.
Like, he has, like, a... Like, this whole David Thewlis thing was kind of a disguise?
Yes.
Gotcha.
Absolutely. Because I liked David Thewlis being
Sir Patrick. Yeah.
But yeah, once he became like a big villain that you're supposed to be, I like a lot of times to be able to change things like that. For instance, we were talking about in Fantastic Four, the original. Well, not the original,
not the 94 one,
right? But the first one after, what was it, 2005 it came out?
Yeah, something like that. It was with...
2004 maybe?
With Jessica Alba and all that.
Right.
Yeah. By the way, we should do that 1994 one is on YouTube, like the entire thing. We should do an episode on that.
Okay.
It might be really hard to watch, but we should do an episode on it. Anyway, go ahead.
But for Doctor Doom, like, traditionally you'd have a deep,
Voice.
menacing, Darth Vader style voice, but
Right.
they use more of a higher menacing voice, and I really liked that.
Right. And I remember thinking, like, I wanted it to be a more deeper voice.
Did you?
I think if we go, it's, I haven't listened to our episode, since we had recorded it probably, but I believe I remember saying, like, I wish he had more of a Darth Vader type voice, and you were like, not me.
Yeah.
You were like, I thought it was perfect, and I was like, all right, cool.
Yeah, I really like how they did that.
Yeah.
So I like being able to break off tradition,
Sure, I understand that, yeah.
but just for whatever reason, David.
And they did. I think they even knew that, like, David Thewlis does not have the most menacing voice and stuff, and so they added, like, an effect to his voice once he got the armor on and
Right.
stuff. There was a little bit of of bass added to it, maybe, and a little bit of echo kind of stuff. So, but it kind of worked for me. I think I liked the fact that they got somebody who you didn't expect to be Ares. It's somebody. I mean, Sir Patrick even has like a cane and a limp.
Right.
They're really trying to throw you off the scent in the beginning of the film, or whenever he shows up.
But in the end, when you find, like, for instance, when she kills
Ludendorff.
Yeah, Ludendorff. Yeah. Like, my first thought was Maru. Because,
right, yeah.
Honestly,
she's the next big baddie, essentially.
Yeah. And I was like, oh, we're going to do, a female versus a female.
Right. Oh, yeah.
But then I was like, but then again, the way Maru was acting, like, she said she had a loyalty to Ludendorff. Mm-hmm. And I was like, I'm not so sure. And then my next thought was, who's the least likely? And I was like, Sir Patrick. I was like, it's going to be Sir Patrick. And it was.
Yeah, you said that out loud. Once Ludendorff died, you were like, well, that was too easy. You're like, so I guess it must be Maru. And I just stayed quiet because I was like, nope, you're wrong. And then you were like, unless it's Sir Patrick. And in my brain, I was like, dang it, he got it. I was like, he totally got it right.
Yeah.
But you're right. If you sit there and go, well, who's the least likely to be Ares? Well, it's Sir Patrick. I guess it's going to be Sir Patrick.
Yeah.
Then you can probably easily figure it out. And I'm sure, it wasn't like I wasn't trying to figure out who Ares was when I saw it in the theater, so I wasn't like, what? It's Sir Patrick. But at the same time, I was like, gotcha, it's the next big actor in the film, essentially.
Yeah.
But I guess if I'm sure there were tons of people who kind of were like, well, who had the same thought process you did. Who's the least likely? Sir Patrick. Right. Yeah, it's Sir Patrick. But anyway, I like that. I liked David Thewlis' performance, even in the armor and everything. Even though, like you said, it doesn't quite match up to what you expect Ares to be or whatever. But I think it almost kind of goes like what you said with going against tradition. Having him be Ares in the armor and everything.
Right.
So,
and I like the style of the armor. Like, is that? I'm assuming that's what he looks like in the comics.
Yeah, it's pretty similar from what I've seen.
Yeah.
I don't know exactly, but from what I've seen, it does look pretty similar. I have a T-shirt that says Most Wanted on it, and it's a lot of DC villains. It's got Black Manta on it, and Joker, and Lex Luthor, and Ares is in the background, and he's wearing a helmet very similar to that.
Cool.
So, what did you think of while we're talking about Ludendorff? What did you think of Ludendorff? Danny Houston playing General Ludendorff, whatever his name is. I'm going to say Ludendorff 5 more times.
Okay.
Ludendorff.
He was fine, but at the same time, he felt a little, cliche.
Danny Houston, I think, is a good actor, but for some reason, there are certain movies where I don't really enjoy watching him. And I don't know if it's the choices he makes as an actor, or if he's just a little bit over the top, or what. But I don't really like him in this movie. I didn't really care for him there's lots to not care for in X-Men Origins Wolverine, but I didn't really care for him in that. There's another movie called 30 Days of Night where I really didn't like him. And I don't know what it is about him. Because I think he's a good actor.
What movies have you seen that you like him in?
Oh man, I don't know. But I would, if I look up his filmography, I bet you it's the ones that are more subtle performances.
Mm-hmm.
Like not comic book movies. Because I think in these comic book movies, he overacts perhaps a little bit,
Yeah, I really didn't like the part where they threw in the gas mask.
Yeah, and he was like, she was like, that's not going to do anything. He's like, but they don't know
Right.
that. Yeah, like
That was pretty lame.
that was super lame. I wish they had just cut that out because that was terrible. And it was, I guess, it was just a way to show he's just that much more evil, but it was really cheesy.
Yeah, and I think too, it was an attempt for a laugh, and it just wasn't funny.
No, yeah, I agree.
And that's something that I have seen a lot of myself personally in the DC movies is they're trying to bring like the humor that they bring just to me is not funny.
Yeah, and you're hard to kind of please. I don't know if that's true. I don't know if you're hard to please, but I know that, like, especially with superhero movies, I feel like if you know that they're trying to be funny, then you are more critical of it. However, if you go see a comedy that's not a superhero movie,
Right.
I feel like you're more likely to enjoy the comedy in it.
Yeah.
So I'm
However,
curious what you're going to think about Shazam.
did we ever do Guardians of the Galaxy?
We did the first one, I
Yeah.
think, but not the second.
So to me,
But did you know that movie was going to be as funny going into it?
no,
Whereas some of these movies, that
I did not.
Yeah.
I did not know it was going to be that funny, and so I watched it, and I thought it was great. I thought the comedy in there,
was perfect.
yeah,
I agree. Guardians is in my probably top 5 Marvel movies. Guardians 2, however, but we had a kind of little small conversation about Guardians 2 before we started recording, and from the sound of it, maybe I just need to give it another chance.
I just watched it for the first time like a few days ago,
Right.
And from what I'd heard, kind of like I said earlier, how I get expectations one way or the other, and this one was kind of lowered just from what I'd heard, and I didn't think it was as bad as I was hearing.
Right. So maybe I need to give it another chance. We should probably do an episode on it eventually too. But Dr. Maru, she's a character I'm unfamiliar with. If she's in the comics, I don't know anything about her. But in the movie, I thought she was kind of cool. I liked the mask thing. It gives a little bit of mystery to her character and whatnot. She's pretty evil, obviously. She gets very upset when her gas does not burn through this guy's flesh or whatever.
Right.
When it doesn't work. So, but she's kind of a cool. It almost reminds me of like a Bond film. She's like the odd job, She's the henchman.
That's an interesting way to look at it. Yeah.
To the main bad guy, if you will. So I kind of like her character. I think she's a cool character. She doesn't die either, does she? She gets Wonder Woman, I guess, is tempted to smash her with a tank, and then she thinks about Steve Trevor and what he said and all that about how he's like, I can save the day, but you can save the world. And she decides to. I'd like to think she never really was going to smash her with the tank, but maybe she was. And
that was my thought, when we were watching the movie.
I think maybe
she was going to. I was like, she's going to throw it at Ares.
Right? Yeah. It was never even going to be a thing. But I'm wondering maybe if Ares was trying to corrupt her. You know how Ares supposedly can corrupt men? Maybe he was trying to corrupt her as well.
I don't think he'd be able to do that, though.
I don't think he'd be able to do it either, but I'm wondering if he was trying. And
yeah, he was definitely... I gotcha.
And was just kind of getting into her head a little bit, but then she thought of Steve and was like, nah, I'm not going to do that. But anyway, so then we see Dr. Maru just run off, and so I'm assuming she's still out there somewhere. Well, not anymore. Maybe she's dead now because of old age or something, but...
I mean, apparently Steve Trevor's in...
That's true.
In 1984.
She's Cheetah. No. So, yeah. What did you think about all the Themyscira scenes?
I liked him for the most part. That was early on in the movie. Mm-hmm. And like I said, that stuff I liked, pretty well.
Yeah.
Especially compared to what I felt like where the movie went later on.
Yeah.
But I did like that it was a period piece. Like, during the battle when she does the overkill blow to the bell tower.
Right. Yeah.
There's a part right before that where she, leaps through a window and there's like a bunch of soldiers around her and she is tripping them and stuff, and just thinking about how it was kind of cool and different to get that, old school vibe from the early 1900s, and here with a superhero movie.
Yeah.
So
this thought just came to me, and I wonder if this has any sort of accuracy at all. But Thor, that came out in 2011, was the beginning of the movie was him on Asgard, kind of an origin story, and then he gets what's the word I'm looking for? When you
transported,
kick somebody out, when you
banished.
He gets banished from Asgard and sent to Earth, and it's in present day, and it's kind of a fish out of water story. He does the whole. Remember when he had the coffee? This drink, I like it. Another, and he throws it on the ground. Everybody's like, "Oh, what are you doing?" So I wonder if Wonder Woman, since it was going to have a similar idea, if that's why they were like, "Well, Thor just came out. It's in present day. Maybe we should have her go back to a certain time."
And well, it's interesting because it was mentioned to me by someone that Themyscira kind of is like Asgard.
Yeah.
It just kind of has that feel about set design and stuff like that.
Right.
Theme. And then they go to World War I. It's like they were trying to do Captain America.
Right.
Except Captain America was
World War II. Yeah.
And they're like, well, we can't do World War II. Let's do World War I.
Right. Yeah, I'm curious. I would like to know, what the conversations were and why it was decided to go with World War I and whatnot. That was obviously a decision that was made before Batman v Superman, because the picture that she takes in this movie is in that movie. That's why she doesn't break into, but that's why she steals the drive from Bruce Wayne from Lex Luthor's place, because she's trying to find the photograph that Lex Luthor has that she says belongs to her, and then when he sends it to her, he says, "It doesn't belong to you. It is you." So clearly before they had actually started shooting this movie, they had decided that it was going to take place in World War I or something, but I would just be curious to hear those conversations and figure out why it was set that way. If Marvel, Marvel's Thor and Captain America, if those had any sway into their decision making, or if we're just kind of reading into something that, I don't know. I'd be curious. I'm just, I don't know.
No, I'm curious too. It could be a coincidence. Probably not.
I don't. Yeah, you never know.
Knows?
You never know. Do you have a favorite scene?
Honestly, I think it was probably like you were talking about the CGI fighting. I think the beginning of the battle between her and Ares, was kind of my favorite part of the movie.
My favorite part might be a little obvious, but is the no man's land part. Where she finally reveals the Wonder Woman costume, and she's, Steve Trevor's telling her, we can't fight here. They've been holding this line for forever, and they've never been able to gain any ground. And she's like, then we need to do something, type of thing. And she gets up there, and it's all slow motion, and she essentially saves the day with that scene. I love the music in that scene. I love the slow motion, bullets bouncing off her wrists and all that stuff. It's a cool scene, and it's the first reveal of her Wonder Woman costume. Even though, again, we've seen it in Batman v Superman, but it was the first time we'd seen it in this movie, and it's like an hour and 15 minutes into the movie or something.
Right.
It's pretty late into the film. I mean, it's a 2 hour and 20-minute movie, but still, it happens pretty far into the movie. But that's my favorite scene. I love that scene. I think it's awesome. Music's really good too, by the way. And it was done by Rupert Gregson Williams. I almost said Harry Gregson Williams.
Yeah, I definitely like the Wonder Woman theme.
Yeah, which that was Hans Zimmer, I'm pretty sure, because he did that in Batman v Superman.
That's true. Very true.
But yeah, the Wonder Woman theme is great. I remember I heard the Wonder Woman theme before I saw Batman v Superman, because the soundtrack came out like maybe a day or two before the movie did.
That's right. I remember you asking, you were like, "Hey, you want to hear the Wonder Woman?" And thought it was kind of it was weird at first
when you hear it out of context, without seeing the movie.
Yeah,
I didn't think I liked it.
Right.
I was like, really? This is the Wonder Woman theme? All right. Hans Zimmer's phoning it in. But then you see the movie and you're like,
yeah,
that music's amazing.
Yeah,
it works really well with the visuals and all that.
Yeah.
So, So yeah, Rupert Gregson Williams did a good job adapting that music into his own score, and you know, even before that theme kicks in during that No Man's Land scene, especially, that music is amazing. I really, really like it. Rupert Gregson Williams also did Aquaman.
Okay.
So you'll have to tell me what you think about that.
And you said they're doing a sequel to Wonder Woman and Aquaman.
They are. Even though Ben Affleck is out as Batman, Henry Cavill, as far as I know, is out as Superman. So probably no more Justice League movies, but we're going to get a few more solo movies. And Robert Pattinson, it's official, he's now Batman.
All I can say is, why? No, seriously though. I was gonna say, don't forget the reaction we all had to Heath Ledger.
Right, and people had a reaction to Michael Keaton. You know, when I remember my dad telling me, and I thought for a long time I thought it was just his reaction. You know, but he was like, they cast Michael Keaton as Batman, and I remember my dad said, I remember thinking, Michael Keaton?
Right.
As Batman?
Right.
And apparently that's what everybody thought.
Right.
And then Batman came out, and everybody was like, oh my God.
Beetlejuice was before Batman, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean.
And he had primarily done, up until that point, I think, comedies. Like Michael Keaton, he may have done one or two dramas, but I'm not sure. I think so. I think he was primarily known for being a comedic actor, and then they had cast him as Batman. So I think, you know, if the internet had existed back then, the internet would have thought that this Tim Burton Batman movie was going to be a pile of garbage.
Yeah.
And that's what people are thinking now, you know, because they can't get over the whole Twilight thing. But
right.
I've seen a few post-Twilight Robert Pattinson movies, like The Rover, and there's a movie called Good Time on Amazon Prime. I actually haven't finished it. But from what I've seen, I mean, he does a phenomenal job in Good Time, and he's really good in The Rover.
Okay, and like we were talking about, you know, Cedric Diggory. Like, he like I love the character Cedric Diggory in the movie. Like he's
so I think he's going to do a good job.
Yeah.
People didn't like Ben Affleck when he was cast as Batman either,
right?
And now everybody thinks he's like the best one.
I was super stoked.
Yeah,
but I think one, you know, I knew that he did have a Bruce Wayne vision.
Look
to him, but also because, like, you know, like I've talked to him before,
right?
And I was like, I'll be able to say I've met Batman.
Yeah, that's true. Good point. So no, I'm excited about Robert Pattinson being Batman. I think he'll be he's not an obvious choice, but I think he'll do a good job. I'm excited to see. I'm assuming he'll probably try to put on some muscle, you know, to fill in the suit a little bit, but because he's kind of a skinny dude. But I'm excited to see, you know, that first image whenever it gets released.
My biggest concern right now is just DC in general.
Right.
I don't have a lot of faith in, you know, how they are treating their property right now.
Mm-hmm.
When Heath Ledger was cast, it was Christopher Nolan.
Right.
So, you know.
But Matt Reeves has a pretty good track record, too. Not Christopher Nolan, you know, it's not Christopher Nolan's track record, but it's a pretty good track record. So, I'm excited to see what Matt Reeves can do with the Batman franchise, and I'm excited to see what Robert Pattinson does in the role. I'm also really excited to see who else they cast in the movie, what the villains are going to be, you know. Rumor is, like, Penguin might be in it. So I don't know. We'll see who they cast and what the movie is going to be like. And apparently they're not starting shooting for another like 6 months or more. So
that's a good question. Like, who would you want to be the villain? Because, you know, yes, of course we want the Joker, but we don't want the Joker,
right? And we're getting a joke. We just had. I mean, Suicide Squad was what 2-3 years ago. It was 20. Did that come out same year as Batman v Superman? I think it did, right? So it was like 2016.
They were close.
Yeah. We had, you know, Jared Leto's Suicide Squad, Joker. We've got Joaquin Phoenix's Joker coming out this year.
Right.
Which I know doesn't take place in the same universe or anything, but it's like, I think it would be smarter for them to not have Joker in this film and save him for a sequel or something, you know, and do I mean,
unless this is the Joker for the Robert Pattinson universe.
the Joaquin Phoenix
Yeah.
Joker. That would be interesting because I think I'm really excited about that movie, but I'm also really confused about it because it's like Thomas Wayne is still alive in that movie, so Bruce Wayne's a kid and he's supposed to be Joker. So
That's true because you said this is kind of a younger Batman, but not like he still has experience. Like you said, he's like in his 30s.
Yeah, and so he's been Batman for a little while, but he's still kind of in the early years of his crime fighting.
So if Thomas Wayne is still alive in the Joker movie, then that would be
weird.
Yeah.
So I'm curious. I mean, I know this Joker movie is a standalone movie, but it's still in a Batman universe, not necessarily Matt Reeves' Batman. But so I don't. Yeah, the timeline thing is weird to me, and
it's confusing, man.
Yeah,
I don't know. Like
maybe they're just taking huge liberties with it,
They might be.
So who knows?
Kind of like the Venom movie.
Yeah.
I don't know, but
I don't either.
Yeah. So.
Well, I guess we should get back to Wonder Woman.
That's what I was thinking.
And give our rating, unless you got anything else to say about it.
I don't. I was going to have a little bit of a lower rating, but because of how I thought the beginning of the movie, was pretty well done, I'm going to raise it half a
star.
Well, I thought we should
half a lasso.
I was going to say lassos of truth.
Okay.
So I'll give it 3 lassos.
3 lassos out of 5. I like this movie a bit more than you do. I think it's a lot of fun. I think Gal Gadot does a great job as Wonder Woman. I think Steve Trevor does a great job as... Chris Pine does a great job as Steve Trevor does a great Chris Pine impression. So anyway, it's a movie that I really enjoy, and I really like it pretty much the whole way through. So I'm going to give it... I think originally on my Flickster app, I had given it 4.5 stars. So apparently, I guess I had really liked it when I saw it in the theater, but I'm not going to quite go so high. I'm going to give it 4, though. I'm going to give it 4 stars.
4 lassos.
4 lassos, my bad. Yeah, 4 lassos.
Okay.
4 lassos.
And what I was thinking...
by the way, we didn't talk about that, but I really like the look of the lasso in this movie.
Yeah,
that's one of those things that I think could come across really cheesy, and they do a really great job with it. I love the look, that kind of glowing look to it and everything.
Yeah.
And
I agree.
They use it really well in the movie to get information out of people and stuff. So the lasso I think actually works really well. So far we haven't had an invisible jet, and I don't know if that'll ever be in these movies.
I would advise against that.
Yeah, I would too.
I'd rather her fly.
I would too. Yeah. Why? Ares, like I said, Ares can do it, so why not her?
Yeah. And I was gonna say, since we forgot to substitute the stars
for Bill and Ted.
We could have done the phone booths.
Okay. Well, for Bogus Journey, maybe we'll come up with something. All right. Well, we'd love to know what you think about Wonder Woman. You can leave us a comment on www.cinemaheroes.com, or you can leave a comment on Facebook, facebook.com/SM and SM podcast. Or you can tweet at us at Cinema Heroes on Twitter, or leave us a comment on Instagram, also at Cinema Heroes. I think that about wraps it up for this episode. My name's Justin Speck.
I'm John Pelzel.
Thanks for listening. Thanks for subscribing.